If you've been waiting, refreshing your screen, checking your email over and over again, or scrolling through immigration forums wondering whether this was finally your moment, this draw probably felt like a big deal. And honestly, it is. Every Canada PR draw carries thousands of dreams with it. For some people, it's the start of a new life. For others, it's another round of almost, but not yet. And if you're here trying to understand what just happened, who actually got selected, and what it all really means for you, then you're in exactly the right place. Because let's be real for a second. The official announcements are often confusing. You see numbers, scores, categories, and technical terms thrown around, but they don't always answer the question you really care about. Do I stand a chance? That's why we're going to break this down in the simplest, clearest way possible. No complicated jargon, no unnecessary fluff. Just real explanations that actually help you understand where you stand. So first, let's talk about what a PR draw actually is, because even though many people follow them closely, not everyone fully understands how they work. Canada uses a system called Express Entry, which is basically a pool of candidates from all over the world. People submit their profiles with details like age, education, work experience, language test scores, and other factors. Based on this information, each person is given a score, commonly known as the CRS score, or Comprehensive Ranking System score. Think of it like a ranking system. The higher your score, the better your chances. Now, from time to time, the Canadian government conducts a draw. During this draw, they set a minimum score, known as the cutoff score. Everyone who has a score equal to or above that cutoff gets an invitation to apply for permanent residency. This invitation is often called an ITA, Invitation to Apply. Now here's where things get interesting. Not every draw is the same. Some draws are general, meaning they include candidates from all programs: Federal Skilled Worker, Canadian Experience Class, and Federal Skilled Trades. Other draws are category-based, targeting specific groups like healthcare workers, tech professionals, French speakers, or people with experience in certain industries. So when you hear about Canada PR draw results, what you're really looking at is a combination of three key things: how many people were invited, what the cutoff score was, and what type of draw it was. These three factors together determine who got selected. Let's break this down further in a way that actually makes sense. First, the number of invitations. This tells you how many people were selected in that particular round. If the number is high, it usually means more people got a chance. But it doesn't automatically mean easier selection, because the cutoff score still matters a lot. Second, the cutoff score. This is the most important number for most applicants. If your CRS score is above this number, you're in. If it's below, you're not selected in that draw. It's as simple and as stressful as that. Third, the type of draw. This determines who is even eligible to be considered. For example, if it's a healthcare-focused draw, then even if you have a very high score, you won't be selected unless you meet that category requirement. Now, let's talk about who actually got selected in the recent draw. This is where people often misunderstand things. When results are announced, many assume that selection is purely about having a high score. But in reality, it depends heavily on the type of draw. If the draw was general, then the selection is straightforward. Candidates with the highest scores across all programs are invited until the quota is filled. So in this case, the people who got selected are simply those who ranked highest in the pool at that time. But if the draw was category-based, then the selection becomes more targeted. For example, if the draw focused on tech occupations, then candidates who have work experience in eligible tech roles and meet other criteria are prioritized. Even if someone outside that category has a higher score, they won't be selected in that particular draw. This is a huge shift in how Canada is selecting immigrants. In the past, most draws were general, and the system heavily favored people with very high CRS scores. But now, with category-based draws, Canada is focusing more on specific labor market needs. This means that even candidates with slightly lower scores can get selected if they fall into the right category. And this brings us to an important point. Your score is important, but it's not everything anymore. Let's say you have a CRS score of 480. In a general draw, that might or might not be enough, depending on the cutoff. But if you're in a high-demand category like healthcare or STEM, your chances could be much better in a targeted draw. On the other hand, if your profile doesn't match any of the targeted categories, then you are mostly relying on general draws. In that case, your CRS score becomes much more critical. Now, another factor that people often overlook is tie-breaking rules. Sometimes, many candidates have the same CRS score at the cutoff point. So how does Canada decide who gets selected among them? This is where the tie-breaking rule comes in. Basically, if multiple candidates have the same score, priority is given to those who submitted their profiles earlier. So if your score matches the cutoff exactly, your chances depend on when you created your profile. This might seem like a small detail, but it can make a big difference. Two people with identical scores can have completely different outcomes just because one applied earlier than the other. Now, let's talk about what this means for you. If you were selected in the draw, congratulations. But remember, this is just the beginning. Getting an ITA means you now have the opportunity to apply for permanent residency. You'll need to submit all required documents, including proof of work experience, education credentials, language test results, and more. And you'll need to do this within a limited time frame, usually 60 days. This stage is critical. Many people think the hard part is getting selected, but in reality, the application process that follows is just as important. Any mistake, missing document, or inconsistency can lead to delays, or even rejection. Now, if you are not selected, don't panic. This happens to most people multiple times before they finally get an invitation. The key is to understand why you weren't selected and what you can do to improve your chances. Start by looking at your CRS score. Is it significantly below the recent cutoff? If yes, then you should focus on ways to increase it. This could include improving your language test scores, gaining more work experience, pursuing higher education, or even getting a provincial nomination, which can add a significant number of points. If your score is close to the cutoff, then patience might be your best strategy. Scores fluctuate from draw to draw, and sometimes even a small change can make a difference. Also, pay attention to category-based draws. If your profile aligns with any targeted category, make sure your information is accurate and up to date so you can be considered when those draws happen. Another thing to keep in mind is that the immigration system is constantly evolving. Policies change, categories are updated, and priorities shift based on Canada's economic needs. So, staying informed is extremely important. Many applicants make the mistake of creating their profile and then doing nothing. But the truth is, your profile is not something you should set and forget. You should regularly update it, monitor draw trends, and actively look for ways to improve your chances. Now let's address one of the biggest questions people have. What are my real chances? The honest answer is, it depends. It depends on your score, your profile, your category, and even timing. But one thing is clear. Opportunities are increasing, especially with category-based draws. Canada has ambitious immigration targets, and they are actively looking for skilled workers to fill gaps in their labor market. This means that if you are strategic, proactive, and well-prepared, your chances are better than ever. But it also means competition is strong. Thousands of candidates are entering the pool every month, many with very high scores. So simply being eligible is not enough. You need to be competitive. Let's talk briefly about provincial nominee programs, because they play a huge role in PR selection as well. If you receive a provincial nomination, you get a massive boost in your CRS score, usually enough to guarantee an invitation in the next draw. Each province has its own criteria and targets specific types of candidates. Some focus on certain occupations, while others prioritize candidates with connections to the province, such as work experience or education there. So, if your CRS score is not high enough for general draws, exploring provincial programs can be a very smart move. Now, coming back to the draw results, what's the bigger picture here? The recent draw is not just about numbers. It reflects Canada's current priorities, whether it's focusing on specific industries, increasing invitations, or adjusting cutoff scores. Each draw tells a story about where the immigration system is heading, and if you can read that story correctly, you can position yourself in a much stronger way. So instead of just asking, "Was I selected?" start asking, "What can I learn from this draw?" Look at trends, look at categories, look at score movements, because these insights can help you make better decisions moving forward. At the end of the day, getting Canada PR is not just about luck. It's about preparation, strategy, and persistence. Some people get selected quickly, while others take longer. But those who stay consistent, keep improving their profiles, and adapt to changes are the ones who eventually succeed. So whether you got selected this time or not, don't lose momentum. Keep going, keep improving, and most importantly, stay informed, because your opportunity might be closer than you think.